In the standard workplace setting, intellectual wellness dictates whether a team operates as proactive, sharp problem solvers or fatigued, distracted executioners. As an all-source intelligence analyst, I was tasked with building time-sensitive threat assessments for tactical and operational teams. And it was this responsibility required attention to detail, historical context, critical thinking, and most importantly, focus, or lives could be lost. In the standard workplace setting, intellectual wellness dictates whether a team operates as proactive, sharp problem solvers or fatigued, distracted executioners. Welcome back for episode 7 of our 10-part masterclass series where we've been discussing the 8 dimensions of wellness. So far, we have covered physical, emotional, occupational, financial, and social wellness. Today's spoke is one that is hiding in plain sight. So on every phone and in every meeting, and that's intellectual wellness. In military intelligence work, I would say any intelligence work, the quality of your output is going to be a direct reflection of the quality of your input. So feed a system distorted or fragmented information, or have a distracted, misinformed analyst, and you're going to get distorted, fragmented, and incomplete intelligence. And the same is true for the human mind. And right now, the modern information environment is running a real-time experiment on that principle at scale. And this conversation isn't about eliminating all screen time during the workday. That is an unrealistic standard for most professionals. But it is about deliberately shifting unstructured time spent on content engineered to fragment attention to plan time on content that includes engagement with new ideas, critical thinking, creative expression, and lifelong learning. And something to note, it's not always about credentials, but instead whether your mind is being actively developed or passively drained. And as we always like to do, is provide some data. So data shows that roughly 31% of US adults doomscroll regularly. That number climbs to 51% amongst our younger generations. Research on workplace behavior also found that employees who doomscroll during work hours show measurably lower engagement with their professional tasks. And this isn't necessarily about a leisure only pattern, but it spills into the workday as well as after work hours. And workplace research on attention has found that people now switch tasks roughly every 3 minutes, but on average need over 23 minutes to fully re-engage after that interruption. And so you see this is compounded across a day, and that context switching alone is estimated to consume 45 to 90 minutes of usable output. So a systemic review across more than 66,000 participants found that prevalence of computer vision syndrome or chronic eye strain, headaches, blurred vision rises to nearly 70% amongst knowledge workers specifically. And so think none of this data is about willpower, but are reflections of an information environment that is engineered for interruption, competing directly against a mind that was never designed to recover in 3-minute intervals. So some common issues and what they may look like are mental stagnation, where an individual goes weeks without deliberately learning something new. Doomscrolling, right? Junk content out of boredom, and cognitive fatigue from repetitive tasks, which oftentimes can be mistaken for laziness instead of recognized as an organizational design problem. And then lastly, the fragmented attention from unnecessary interruptions that never fully is able to reset itself between tasks. And so how do we, solve some of these issues? Some recommendations are for the individual, swap time spent on social media scrolling for time for nonfiction reading, or an educational podcast daily, or even joining an employee interest group. For the organizational solutions, allocate innovative hours, or encourage cross-training stipends where employees can learn skills outside of their immediate job description. And guess what? This spoke has one of the lowest cost, highest visibility fixes on the entire wellness wheel, and can be implemented by simply optimizing invaluable time, not adding a program, but protecting a block of the calendar that already exists. And just as many of the other spokes are interconnected, intellectual wellness and occupational wellness are also very tightly linked. Think the same always on culture that we discussed in episode 4 is what crowds out the calendar space this spoke depends on. And then there's the connection to emotional wellness and social wellness, which runs through cognitive fatigue directly. Remember, a mind that never gets an uninterrupted block to think has fewer resources available to regulate stress when it counts. So intellectual wellness is not a luxury for people with spare time, but an input quality decision that shapes everything downstream of it. When was the last time you assessed your organizational or personal intellectual wellness level? I encourage you to take the 10-minute assessment located in the description and see if your intellectual spoke could use some additional support. Next episode, we look at the spoke that defines why any of this matters, and that's spiritual wellness, and the cost of operating without a clear sense of purpose. Once again, I'm Tiquita Stewart. Stay sharp, stay focused, stay healthy, and I will see you in the next episode.